you're going to really want to be listening to what we're talking about here, because I'm not actually going to show you the picture until after we're done. So you're just going to have to listen to what I'm describing and watch what I'm doing on the boards, and then draw your shape based on what I'm saying. So first thing that we have to do is we need to figure out where to start our drawing on the page, and to do that we need to find the center of our drawing area here. Now, once again, if you had done everything right on your title block, there should be exactly 10 inches between your border lines. And we can check that really quick. Oh, and mainly today you're going to need your 30, 60, 90 triangle, your architectural scale, and your 45-degree triangle. Probably your erasing shield and eraser as well. There we go. Alright, I'm going to set all these over to the side here. Like I said, the first thing I want to do is check my measurement here. So if I put my 0 mark on the left hand side and come over, see, I'm actually just a hair bigger, larger than 10 inches on mine, which is okay. Yeah. Actually, mine's reading 10 1/8. So that's either some fluctuation when we were drawing the vertical lines, or heck, it could even be that the paper is a little off-size. But so the first thing we're going to do, since we've already got the ruler measuring across the paper, let's go ahead and find the center mark for this. So if we determine that, like on mine, it's 10 1/8 inch across, then we need to, what is half of that? 5 and what? 5 1/16, exactly. So you're going to want to take your lead holder and make a mark at 5 1/16. And nothing hard or anything, because we really don't want these lines to still be there when we're done. So we're going to end up erasing it. Right now we just need to know where the center of our paper is. So that's the horizontal center. Huh? Okay, then then you use 5. So whatever is specific for your paper, you'll want to use the center mark for yours. If you're off a little bit, that's not too big of a deal. But you want to be as accurate as possible, as always. So now that I have that mark in place, I'm going to take my 30, 60, 90 triangle, because it's the longest one I've got. I'm going to set the flat edge of it against my parallel rule, I mean the short edge of it against my parallel rule, and move my parallel rule up so that it is even with the top line of my title block. And then I'm also going to move this over so that the mark I made at the horizontal center of my paper is against the vertical edge here. Now if we look at the measurement here, you can see we're about at 7 1/4. It's actually more 7 5/16. So what's half of that? So half of 7 is 3.5, right? 3 1/2? Right, and then half of 5/16 is 5/32. So we're going to come up to 3 1/2, and then we're going to count, including the space between them, because our scales are in 16ths. Our measurements are in 16ths, but we want to find 32nds. So the best way to do that is to count the space as well as the mark. So I'm starting at 3 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be the mark, or it'll be inside of the space just after 5/8. 3 5/8.
Make a little mark right there.
Yep. So I usually make just a little plus shape. That way I know where I'm working from. Now the shape that we're going to draw today fits within a rectangle that is 4 inches wide and 5 inches tall. So in order to do this, the first thing that you always want to do, no matter what the shape is to find the box that your shape will fit in. Sometimes it's very blatant, like this will be a rectangular shape with some other dimensions added to it, basically. Sometimes it'll be a little tougher. But as long as you start off with the outside shape that your object will fit perfectly in, then you're probably going to always have, at the very least, the right size, overall size for the shape that you're drawing. So I said that this shape is 4 inches wide and 5 inches tall. Since we've already got our measurement set up to do a vertical measurement here, I'm going to find, well, first off, what's half of 5? 2.5, right? So I'm going to take 2.5 on my triangle, and I'm going to move my parallel rule up until 2.5 is sitting on that plus mark. Okay. Once I've done that, I'm actually going to slide my triangle out of the way and make a light line on the parallel rule. Then I'm going to slide my ruler back and make a mark at 5 up here at the top. See? After I made that mark at the 5 inch, I'm going to move my parallel rule up and make another light line up here. The reason it's light is because at least part of this is going to end up being erased after we measure here in just a minute. Okay.
How do we know how far across to go?
You don't yet, so I just make sure it's bigger than it needs to be. That's why we do it light, so you can erase the rest of it. Our next step is going to be to take our scale. I told you that the width of our object is 4 inches, and half of that is 2. So I'm going to put 2 on my center mark and make a mark at the 4-inch section on my parallel rule, or on my scale, and then a mark at 0. With that done, I'll take the scale out of place, put my triangle back on, and draw a light line from the top to the bottom. Now, even though we know exactly where this line is supposed to be, not all of it is going to remain when we're finished with the drawing. So what we've done so far is created what's called scaffolding, or construction lines, depending on the software or person who's teaching it. But essentially, this box is there for no other purpose than to give us a framework to put the actual drawing that we're doing inside of it. Yes?
I think you could go back a little bit, because I'm kind of confused.
Okay.
Like, how far apart is it from, like, the middle?
From here?
Yeah.
It's 2 inches on either side, because the shape that we're drawing is 4. I wonder if I can get that to focus any better. That's quite a bit better, actually. So we need to make a few marks on the shape to help us place some of the other things that we're going to be drawing on here. So to start with, you need to put your scale across the bottom line and the 0 mark on the left-hand corner. You have to be careful that you don't let the scale slide up underneath your parallel rule, because that can throw you off if it's not perfectly tight against it. So our first mark is going to be at 1/2 of an inch. And then the second mark on this line is going to be 1/4 of an inch from the other side. So according to the rules on here, the markings on here, I'm going to put this mark at 3 3/4. Okay. So the first one is at 1/2 of an inch, and the second one is at 1/4 of an inch from the other side. With those marks in place, I'm going to make the exact same ones at the top. So the first one is 1/2 of an inch from the left side and 1/4 of an inch from the right side. Let's see here. And the next measurement I want to do is a vertical one. So I'm going to put my triangle back on again. This time I'm going to line the parallel rule up with the bottom shape that we've made. And I'm going to make a mark at the 1 inch place, at the 1 inch marker on here. Once that's in place, I'm going to draw a light line through the center. Now all of the basic information that we have, or all of the basic straight lines that we need, are already on the paper. Everything else is going to be at an angle of some sort. So to start with, we're going to take a look at our 30, 60, 90 triangle. And we're going to set it so that the 30 degree, or so that rather, so the 30 degree angle is on the right hand side. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the triangle, you're going to put your pencil on the 1/4 inch from the right hand side mark and slide the triangle over till it's touching your pencil, and then make a dark line between the mark and that horizontal line 1 inch up from the bottom. Please make sure you guys are using the parallel rule to make everything straight and even. With that line in place, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, except we're going to use the 60 degree angle. Put my pencil on the mark, and then pull up from the mark to the line with a dark line. With that done, I'm going to flip the triangle over so that it's in the same orientation, but my hypotenuse is now pointed up. And I'm going to use the bottom of the parallel rule for the next one here. And we're going to do the same thing, except instead of meeting at a line, we're going to draw until the 30 and the 60 degree angles meet at a point. So, pencil on the 1/4 inch from the left-hand side dot at the top. Just I'm going to draw up until I'm probably larger than I need. But I wasn't far enough. Do the same thing on the left-hand side until the lines meet. Am I going too fast for anybody? You guys getting pretty close? Are you close to where I'm at? Okay.
I've been behind because I'm at the line.
Okay. Okay, so all we're going is from those 4 points that we made measuring, following the triangles as they sit. On the top you're drawing to where the 30 degree line and the 60 degree line would intersect. That's this point right here. And on the bottom, you're just going from this point to where it meets that horizontal line. So there's really no measuring there other than measuring of the angle. Oh, I made a mistake. Okay. So I made a mistake and then I led you all through a mistake. But luckily it's one we can fix. And we caught it very early, so. This line right here is actually at the wrong angle. This is actually supposed to be at a 45 degree angle, and I wasn't paying enough attention to my drawing. So, I'll go through here and just erase this line. Now, because I told you to make it a dark line, it's not going to go away completely, and I understand that. Okay. In fact, I pressed hard enough it really didn't even go away at all. Now the top section is just fine. We don't mess with that. So in order to fix this on the drawing, the only thing we have to do is we have to switch out for our 45 degree triangle. We set the hypotenuse against the parallel rule just like we had been doing. Pencil against the mark we measured. There we go. That looks right. Yes. Okay. I'll fix up some of these lines that I erased. Okay. Apologize for that mistake. Although it probably wouldn't have thrown the whole drawing off if we'd stayed with that. Okay. Has everybody been able to get at least most of the way to where we're at right now?
Wait, so how did you, what side did you use?
The 45 degree triangle. And I put the hypotenuse against the parallel rule, or the long side. And then we just followed from that first mark we measured up to the line. So you can see we took off a little chunk. Okay. So the next steps that we're going to do are going to involve a little trickery with the triangles. because we have to measure across the angles that we've made. And I'll show you what that means. So I have my 30, 60, 90 triangle back on the paper. The next line that we're going to make is also 30 degrees, but it is a certain distance away from this one. So it's going to be parallel to it, but 1.5 inches further up. Now we can't measure up this edge because that would throw us off. 1.5 inches up this edge would not be quite right because of this mark being inset. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our triangle, our 45-degree triangle, and we're going to set it on the long leg of the 30, 60, 90 triangle. The measurement we're looking for is 1.5 inches. So it doesn't matter where I put this mark, as long as my 30, 60, 90 triangle is resting on the line that we drew based off of it and tied against our parallel rule. I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to make a mark at 1.5 inches. Okay, so that's this mark here that I made. It is 1.5 inches away from this one. And I'm just going to slide the triangle over on the parallel rule and draw a line. Like I said, it's fairly light. We don't want to go all the way over and make it touch anything. Part of this will be erased. And we're literally going to do the exact same thing on the top. Down 1.5 inches, sliding over, and connecting it like that. So 1.5 inches between the lines, measured along the length, or along the parallel dimension between the two parts. While we're here and set up for it, we need to go ahead and move the 60-degree side of our triangle over so that it's on top of the 60-degree line that we measured and drew. So this one here. For this one, instead of measuring 1.5 inches, we're just going to measure 1 inch. Actually, that needs to be longer than that. And we are one line away from being done with this, except for erasing. For this one, we take our 45-degree triangle once more. Rest it on the line that we made right there. This one is also 1 inch. And on the 45-degree triangle this time, we make that. How did I make this line? So I took my 45-degree triangle, set its hypotenuse on the parallel rule, and lined the leg of it up with the line that we drew. Then I took my 30, 60, 90 triangle, the clear one, which I guess I should have mentioned we've been using the whole time, and set its short edge also against that same angle on the 45-degree triangle. And you measure up 1 inch to right here, and that's where that line goes. It just connects with the one that we made previously. And with that, the only thing we have left to do is to clean up our lines. So I'm going to take the erasing shield, cover this corner up here, and erase the remainder of those scaffolding lines that we made earlier. Now all 4 of these lines should go away. The ones in between these angles. So take my erasing shield again, and this time I'm going to lay it on the line I want to keep. Now I'm going to work on getting the insides cleaned up. The absolute final thing that I'm going to do to finish this is I'm going to go through and darken all of the lines that still remain into what are called object lines. So in some places, my scaffolding lines that became parts of the outside of this are pretty light. So I want to go through and make sure everything's darkened so that there's no what's the word I'm looking for? No doubt, I guess, as to which lines I meant to keep. And that's it for this drawing.